This that new track, new money crew, Cash Stack Records, represent Big Chris.
Hey everyone, to start, I actually wrote a blog post for my friend Finn. He started a really cool blog, and he said that I could write like a guest post. And so I wrote about, my background in politics and like what I think about, stuff happening in my country these days. And so if you want to read that, you can check in the description below. Second of all, this is the start of a series of videos I'm doing about Trump supporters on my campus at the University of Washington. There, yeah, you can see the W. Basically, I interviewed a bunch of Trump supporters and asked them what it was like to, be a conservative on a super liberal campus. And so, yeah, this is Forrest's interview. He's super interesting, and I hope you guys enjoy this. Thank you, and sorry about the crappy quality of this opening shot. Thank you. Bye. So, if you had to describe being a Trump supporter or a conservative on this campus in one word, what would that word be?
In one word, I would probably say, I guess really taxing. I don't want to go so far as exhausting, although it kind of has been for me. But that might just be because I'm everywhere and do everything. But the other conservatives and Trump supporters I talk to have like experienced issues as well. Not as many as I have, but it's difficult and there's not a lot of support around one or two groups, but you're definitely not encouraged, let's say.
Totally. And then, well, that was sort of my next question. What has the reaction been like when you've told your friends and classmates who you support? Like your who you voted for in this case? Yeah,
I've been pretty open about my Trump support since the early day. I guess I supported him to win the Republican nomination, which of course I wasn't a Republican before. And so a lot of people in those early days, like, they kind of thought I was joking, or like, I want to put forward the Republican that's like the opposite of what conservatism used to be when I was growing up, which, to be like, that's kind of true. That's one of the reasons I like him. But people didn't think I was serious, just like they didn't think Trump was serious. Everyone's like, oh, this is a joke, it's not a serious candidate. And even as we start winning, and I'm like, guys, I'm pretty sure he's gonna win. He's gonna win. Like, you should listen. You should start taking this more seriously. Maybe don't do X, Y, Z. People just saw it as a joke, and they saw. I don't think I had anyone unfriend me or stop talking to me during the election. And I have a lot of very Democrat friends. People who worked for the Clinton campaign and stuff. None of them stopped talking me through the election because they thought I was joking. And I do joke a lot. Until the night of, when everyone was like freaking out, openly weeping, all this stuff. I mean, I did. I was on a bus, like I went down to Dick's to get burgers with friends who were also Trump supporters, and we were laughing at it. But then like a girl just gets on the bus and she's sobbing. She's just openly weeping. And we just got real quiet, right? But that night, I just posted, wow, I feel so humbled. This is such a big new thing, big new start. And then people are like, wait, you weren't joking? I also posted like a picture of all the things I'd said that had been proven right through the election. And I was like, vindicated. And that's the one word I had for that night. Because like 18 months, I mean, I'd compare that to being a student here. 18 months, 2 years of people telling you you're not just that your views are bad, your moral, racist, like all that stuff, but that you're stupid. Like, you don't know what you're talking about, even as the things that you said were gonna happen keep happening, right? And even still, it's like, oh, you're just alternative facts. And I think that's a problem with at least Seattle-style liberalism, city-style liberalism, is you're not allowed to have authentically different moral beliefs. Like, liberals don't think you can have that. They just think you got the wrong facts. Like, you watch too much Fox News. And if you only watch The Daily Show instead, you'd get the right facts, and then you'd have the right opinions. Like, they don't see a moral disagreement. They see smart people versus stupid people.
Totally.
And that's how a lot of people react. People who thought I was very smart politically, they were like, either they were like, you're a bigot, or you were so dumb, and then, you know, unfriended, gone.
That's really interesting. And so has the reaction been more like you're dumb and less like you're a bigot, or has there been a mix of both? Was one of them more prevalent than the other?
For me, it's been like you're dumb, kind of, because I play it off like that. You know, I'm a funny guy, and that's a funny thing to do, but I have friends who are more, you know, they'll post. The way I think people post and like write a lot of political opinion is very mean. It's kind of mean-spirited, and I have a lot of friends from like a lot of different areas. So if I just started like reposting exactly what like Republicans were saying, I think it would be you're a bigot. But because I layered on with jokes and like me acting silly, you know, making fun of someone's name or something, they're like, oh, you're just being dumb, you're just doing this as a joke. And, you know, that's a lot easier to deal with than anger from people I like, right?
Yeah. But like, have you talked about your personal life, but have you had any repercussions in classes because of your view?
Yes, yeah, I wanted to talk about it. I was actually reported to the student code of conduct. And I never wore the hat to class or anything because I was in a very liberal major, and I won't say what it is. You know, I don't want to get them in trouble.
Yeah.
But the day after the election, you know, everyone was, I don't know if they had this in your classes, but this might just say more about this kind of liberal arts history-ish major I was in.
Oh, I know.
There were classes every day for like a week where it's just, we have to sit and talk and like understand our feelings about this, and we're so much in shock, and how to resist, how to like do all the, and I'm like, okay, and I shut up, you know, but they started hearing things. And the first class I was at, which actually had my program heads there, the head of the major I was in said during this discussion, in a moment of openness, she said, we need to make it known that major redacted is it's a welcoming place, and conservative, or it's a liberal place, it's a tolerant place, and conservatives and reactionaries aren't welcome here. Which, number one, that's not allowed. You know, you can't block people from majors based on their political beliefs in a public school. But that is what she said, and I think she meant it, you know, and I didn't say anything about it, but like some people in class who knew or suspected kind of looked at me, kind of gave me the side eye, and I was just like avoiding everyone's looks, because whether or not, I mean, I still think of myself as a liberal in the grand political spectrum, in terms of, you know, well, what it's meant historically, but to her, I'm sure by being a Trump supporter, I am a reactionary. I'm not just a conservative. You know, it's that expansion of definition. So not only that, I mean, that was from the top down, but I was also like asked to stop attending class because one teacher found out, the one who reported me to Student Conduct Code, that I wore the hat around. And she reported me, and she was like, you're making people don't feel safe sharing their opinions in class, which no one said. Like, I asked other people in class, maybe someone did, and they weren't, but okay, like, that's on, I'd say that's on them, but it's also like, I got nothing. No professors or anything, you know, came forward to ask me, hey, do you feel safe? I mean, I was physically assaulted, you know, at some of the protests that I didn't know were happening. I got shoved around. But no one asked me, hey, Forrest, do you feel able to express your opinions? Do you feel listened to? No, it's because I wore a hat outside of class, I'm dangerous. Right? And that's, you know, I've been kicked out of ethnic cultural center events, and I've like events with groups I used to participate with and donate money to, but it's just very quickly become a much less welcoming place for me. Yeah. And I'm not actually in that major anymore. I left, but because of all this, I mean, I couldn't really do well in those classes that I wasn't allowed to attend, submitted the final, but you know, it's tough to stay motivated with that sort of thing. Anyway, moving on. Water under the bridge.
The next question is, have people who disagreed with you been open to what you had to say and to your opinions?
Yes, people have, and I really respect, like, I try to moderate, because I know people do trust me. Like, I guess you would say, a lifelong Democrat before this, even though I wasn't, like, I would never support the Republican Party before Trump. So people who also feel the same way, like, I really just hated the Bushes, the Iraq War, all this stuff. The classic GOP conservatism. I really loved how angry Trump was making all that. Like, frankly, when Hillary Clinton was making those ads where it was like, here's Mitt Romney talking bad about Trump, here's George W. Bush talking bad about Trump, here's Jeb Bush, I'm like, why are you making a campaign ad for Donald Trump? These are all people I hate. I'm glad that Mitt Romney doesn't like it, you know. I'm glad. I'm sorry, I got away from the point.
Yeah.
So people trusted me, you know, because I had these opinions, and because I wasn't really a Republican or a Democrat, I was something else. And I didn't even know, really, what I was, where I fell in the American political system. I tried being, like, kind of a libertarian for a while, because that's what all teens do, you know, a lot of teens. Because you want to say, you can't tell me what to do, Mom, and also the government, you know, right?
Yes, I know a ton of libertarians.
Yeah, but, sorry, but, I hadn't really thought, I didn't know for sure, and I would say I'm still, like, civil libertarian, you know, I take those things importantly, but I didn't know what I was, and people kind of trusted me to be an independent, and then it turned out that what I was, yeah, to a degree, a Trumpite. Yeah, I agree with economic populism and, like, these things that were not allowed to be said before. So a lot of people, especially people who didn't understand what was going on with Trump and knew that they didn't understand, like, they weren't just saying, oh, people are dumb, you know, this is idiocracy. They wanted to understand why millions of their countrymen, you know, supported
60.
Donald Trump, even though he didn't win the popular vote, you know, he has enough support to win, and they were just not getting that angle. They could not understand what made him popular from other people, and so that task kind of fell on me because, you know, I'm a writer, I'm into political science, I'm good at explaining that sort of thing. So I am very happy that some people still listen to me, but then some people, you know, did come. My favorite unfriending, actually, you know this guy. It was after the debates, or it was during the debates, and he was talking, he was like, I wish, I was watching these debates, and I just wish we lived in a more civil political time, like in Hamilton, where people could work together despite their disagreements and didn't get into these ridiculous shouting matches. And I'm like, you know that musical ends with them shooting each other,
yeah.
Right?
And there's that, like, slavery thing that was going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, frankly, by, you know, Hamilton, real Hamilton would have absolutely been a Trump fan. He didn't just want to, like, deport illegal, he wanted to deport anyone who didn't like the president. Like, that was the Alien and Sedition Act. So he would have been building a wall and deporting with the best of them.
Yeah, totally.
Sorry, that got a little away from the point, but
fine. What do you think of all of the protests that have happened recently?
I think there's been a lot of protests. Some of the, I think it's good that people protest in general. I think that's a good thing. I'm not against, you know, a lot of people were like, oh, well, we didn't protest and we hated Obama, you know, we weren't doing this. Well, some of you were, number one, but I don't think it's bad for people to be getting politically involved in that way. To touch on, like, the different protests, the ones right after the election, I thought they were completely pointless, pretty much. Maybe people got some networking done, but I went out to a couple of those, and they were pretty much just not my president, like trying to change reality into something that, you know, seemed like reality. You know, it doesn't feel real to a lot of people, and even for me, like, I hope it's not normalized right anytime soon, because sometimes I'm just like going about my daily business and I'm like, oh my god, who's president of the United States? The guy I grew up watching on WWE, like, And everyone said it could never happen. But, so those protests, I didn't care. But then I'm going to have two other categories. Like the Women's March people, I thought that had more of a point, and it was interesting to show resistance, but like there wasn't really a set of concrete goals they were demanding except resistance. And I think that was important to, I guess, make Democrats, and like Democrats basically weren't doing anything in those early days, in my opinion, and that honestly kind of disappointed me as someone who once supported the Democrat. It's like, I mean, Hillary Clinton didn't even go out to the Women's March or all this stuff. I mean, she tweeted. I'm sure she tweeted about it. That's helpful. But then I think the best example of successful protests, and I'm not saying like I didn't necessarily I agree with it in some respects, but one that had a point and accomplished things were the protests around the immigration restrictions. Those impressed me. They had a goal, they had a point, and they certainly achieved some of their ends. So I think there's like a sliding scale of some are just people blowing off steam. Those are my thoughts on like the three different I respect a protest more when it seems like they have a goal. And not just no, like I mean, that's why I didn't like the Republicans before, because everything Obama put forward, I felt like they were like, no. Okay, so what's the alternative? I didn't feel like they had one. And then Trump came forward, and this is what excited me about him in a way that no Republican had ever excited me before. He proposed solutions, huge solutions, maybe insane solutions that will never work, is like, you know, whoever will tell you. I think a lot of them are feasible and they're kind of happening, so that wasn't so wrong. But he was actually providing answers to problems rather than just saying no to things the Democrats were doing. And I'm hoping that the Democrats, as much as resistance can't just mean turning into the party of no, because I don't think that gets you anywhere.
Totally. That totally makes sense, yeah.
Gets you a little somewhere, but
yeah, it gets you a little.
It's very complicated. We can discuss midterms another time.
So what did you think of that Milo talk in particular, and of the protests that were so brilliantly chronicled?
By you yourself? No, yeah, you did a good job.
I was not fishing for compliments, but yeah.
You got him. I don't like Milo Yiannopoulos personally. He's not a journalist. This is how I would describe him. He's the best of the trolls. Like, he is a provocateur. I don't even know if he has any real beliefs of his own other than, like, get a thicker skin, basically. Like, he's a cultural libertarian, kind of. Everything should be allowed, but he never goes further than that. And that's why to me, he's not interesting or that useful. Like, a lot of people enjoy him. You know, I from friends who've talked about him, they're like, oh, he's just entertaining. And he's a funny guy. I mean, when someone's funny, they're funny. But he's not politically interesting to me. And he's never really done any good maybe one or two articles, but he just provokes people. So I didn't really want him to come to campus. And it actually, I don't think it was going to happen until Antifa put all these posters up and like doxed a member of the college Republicans. I don't think Milo would have even come to campus because the funding wasn't there. He charges, I'm under the impression, pretty high like security costs and these sort of things for obvious reasons at this point. But like the group bringing him to campus didn't have the money, and it wasn't like the funding wasn't going amazingly, and so I didn't think he was going to even come to campus. I was like, look, just don't talk about, he's a troll, you don't feed the trolls. But then Antifa comes by and they put all this, you know, they put these posters up doxing like members of our group and all this sort of stuff, and of course the members of the group, then now it's a story on Breitbart, like we're being oppressed, we're being while they might have been, like, that's the story, and it got national attention, like, various stories were reported on this sort of thing, and so it got funded. And so if there wasn't that last minute, like, reaction to, we can't have him on campus, he wouldn't be on campus. So I wasn't very happy with the way that the protesters who were protesting were doing that sort of thing in the first place. But I didn't even go, because I figured it was gonna get rowdy, and of course it did. It got, you know, rowdier than I expected.
I'll leave a link in the comment section.
But obviously it was violent. It's the focus on Yiannopoulos is to such a degree, because he's not part of the alt-right, which, for those of you who don't know, I mean, what the alt-right actually is white nationalism, basically. He doesn't claim to be that. He's never claimed to be that, and the alt-right hates him because they view him as trying to, like, steal their movement, and he's a Jewish person in the media, so it kind of plays into, they hate him. So there's not really a danger to me with Milo unless he's, like, harassing you and you let it get, he's not interesting in and of himself. He's interesting because people treat him like he's Richard Spencer, basically. So I didn't care for the event, but I felt like I had to kind of stand in solidarity after people, you know, got beat up outside, and after the shooting, which of course at the time, you know, no one knew who shot who or anything like that. And I believe it's turned out that it was a Milo supporter who doesn't go to UW, who shot someone else who also doesn't go to UW, who had a swastika tattoo, but it was an like, maybe it had a cross out over it or something.
I think so. It was definitely like a Milo supporter, vague Milo supporter
shooting a vague Antifa. But the Milo is like, well, I thought he was a white, and it's like, and I'm just like, none of this had to happen. None of it. So with the Antifa protests, I think they've been some of the least successful because, well, with the one at UW, number one, an Antifa got shot and the show didn't stop. So it's kind of like...
You're saying Berkeley succeeded, though.
Berkeley was successful in that they stopped the show from happening, but he got national attention from that. And then the next day, you know, his book pre-orders were number one on Amazon, number one on, like, other stuff, so... I feel like you're giving him maybe too much attention. I just don't see how no platforming, because that's what he apes on. Like, that's his whole thing. Everyone's trying to silence me because they're triggered. You know, that's his whole thing. They're treating him like he's Richard Spencer, and, you know, they're treating Richard Spencer like he's Hitler. Yeah. I don't know how they treat Hitler. That's an interesting question, maybe for another day.
Probably. Do you have any views that could be categorized as left wing?
Oh, absolutely. I'm queer myself. I'm asexual. I'm supportive of queer rights. I'm liked a lot of Bernie Sanders' programs and everything. I think we need, like, universal health. I think a public option would be way better than a private option. I'm in support of all these broad-ranging social programs, but we just can't have them with, like, the level of societal, basically, dysfunction, mismanagement that we have now. We need to make America great again, right? We can't have the sort of programs we have in Sweden economically on the same scale. Like, they have to be different just because America is a very different country. It's a very diverse country, both in terms of, you know, racial diversity, but also economic diversity and political diversity. While Sweden is very, well, not so much anymore, but it has been very homogeneous for, like, a really long time. So I support a lot of the goals, I would say. I would support a lot of the goals of the left wing. I just don't see how they're, like, getting to them. The left has won so much over the past 40, 50 years, and in such a brief time frame, that we're starting to get a little crazy with some of this stuff. I mean, okay, let me put it this way. My first, like, political thought when I was a kid was like, I like Harry Potter. What? People are trying to ban this? Don't ban Harry Potter. It's great. And of course, the things at the time, the, like, religious right I was fighting against was, Harry Potter will drive you it'll drive you insane. It'll make you not godly. And then also, like, gay marriage will lead to people normalizing pedophilia. And I was like, those are ridiculous. But then you go on some places on Twitter now, and I'm like, oh no, I wish those were as ridiculous. Oh right, so yeah, I have a lot of left-wing views.
Oh cool, yeah. Have you ever been physically confronted for wearing Trump gear or for identifying as a conservative?
Yes, many times. I'm not gonna like name names or go into the stories too much here, but during those early protests, like the nights after, there were like big protests in the street in Seattle, or big marches. We may have just, how's that? Yeah, I think someone just threw that at me now, so. There you go. That was not planned. That was not set up.
No,
Is there a note? Is it, do you like me? Check yes or no. Does it say something? Love not hate makes America great. Actually, that's not really true. Love doesn't really do anything by itself. Just saying love everything, that's not an ideology. But this is an example, right? I mean, this is what I represent to some people, is just this hateful monster. And so I have been assaulted, you know, I've had someone say, what does making America great mean? And I kind of gave a brush-off answer, like, I want to bring jobs back, I want, you know, kind of a brush-off answer, because I was just going to class, and then she was like, you want to make America racist again? And I was like, no, that's not what it means. And then she was like, you want to bring back slavery? I was like, it's really, I just rolled my eyes and kept going, and like she tried to grab my hat and throw it. It was the whole thing. But I was like confronted at a protest too, like people were getting in my face. And I don't try, you know, I'm not Milo Yiannopoulos. I'm not trying to confront people, but there are people who see this resistance. I mean, they legit believe they are like in Star Wars right now. I'd say they believe they're fighting like a fascist government, but they probably haven't read enough history to know what that entails. Because it's like, okay, if Trump's Hitler, you can really tell that Trump is Hitler by how willing people are able to go on the streets and protest against him. You know, that happened a lot in Nazi Germany. So it's not fascism. But they really believe they're the rebellion. Yeah, I'm waiting for the brick.
I can't believe that happened.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
There you go. Love, not hate. Hate is just protecting things you love. I mean, it's complicated, man. It's not just, wow, hate is so bad. Just, well, I mean, I'm not a hateful person, but in politics, everyone hates something. You know, a lot of people hate Trump. Have you thought of that one?
Yeah, that's very true.
Love, not hate. You know, not liking Trump will not divide us. We have to unite behind our glorious leader. All right, that is wild.
That is not, no, that was...
That's so perfectly timed. That's amazing.
Yeah, I can't believe that. And so you got confronted a few times, you said, especially at earlier protests.
Yeah, people throw things at me, you know.
I just...
like,
that is perfectly timed. I saw that thing being thrown and I was like, there's no way that's a coincidence. And then I was like, wait, they probably raised it.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's cool.
They took time to do this too.
Yeah, it's very deviant art. It's very I could see this in a diary. Very nice. Interesting. It's such a low level. It's like when they go low, we go high, or something. Even that one is a little better, but. Love, not hate, like, just love, man. You gotta love everything. That's not something you can do anything.
It's a lot better. It's a lot better than sending you a note that said "fuck you." Like,
I would have preferred that.
Really, I mean,
that's a little less smarmy. That's a little less.
I think if they assume that they want to like speak to you as a person, you know, speak to your compassion.
If they wanted to speak to me as a person, they wouldn't have thrown a crumpled piece of paper.
But to be fair, it'd be a lot ruder to come up and be like, "Excuse me," and like interrupt an interview. But no, I see what you're saying though. I mean, that makes sense.
I'm gonna find this person. Just gonna...
God, awful. I was getting ready to like.
Must fear this. I'm gonna make a crumpled up note and leave it, and it's just gonna say the weak must fear the strong. PC
Jesus.
Adidas.
PC. That's horrible. Jeez.
Hey, PC Adidas said it, not me. I'm just quoting.
You're just
the
quoting.
scholar. It's probably fine.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh.